students, this is Dr. Vibha Tiwari. Today again I am going to take up the essay Ongoing a Journey for explanation. We had covered some of the important sections of this particular essay in my previous videos, so I am going to take up some more in this video. Let's have the original lines first. The canvas of the fancy is but of a certain extent, and if we paint one set of objects upon it, they immediately efface every other. Now, here the writer points out the strange quality of mind. He says our mind, the faculty of mind, which is called as fancy, the imaginative faculty of mind, fancy, is a kind of canvas on which at a time only one set of painting can be painted or drawn. And once we paint them, they erase other memories. Simply, he wants to say that whenever we are focused upon a thing at a time, every other memory gets erased in that particular moment. We cannot enlarge our conceptions, we can only shift our point of view. And our mind has its own limit. We cannot enlarge the limit. We can only just shift our point of view. He simply wants to say that at a time we can only have one set of ideas in our mind. We cannot have, unlimited ideas. We cannot tend to all the ideas at one particular moment. One by one we can take up those ideas, and once we are focused upon a particular idea, the other things get erased from our memory. The landscape bears its bosom to the enraptured eye. We take our fill of it and seem as if we could form no other image of beauty or grandeur. Now he clarifies why is he saying so. He says when we are on a journey, we look at a particular landscape, the beauty of the landscape captures our attention, and it gives fuel to our imagination. At that time we get enraptured and our eyes take a full they just you can say, if I use the figurative language, they drink from the beauty of the landscape, and we take our fill. That means we get satisfaction out of that. At that time we are totally engrossed in the beauty of that present landscape which we have in front of our eyes, and seem as if we could form no other image of beauty and grandeur. And at that time we feel as if there cannot be any other example of beauty or grandeur. That means at a particular moment, if we get attracted to a thing, in that moment nothing else exists for us. We pass on and think no more of it. The horizon that shuts it from our sight also blots it from our memory like a dream. But it is also a great truth that as we move away from that landscape, as we move away from that beautiful place, we lose its memory also. And the thing that has made us enraptured toward that, it also helps us, or rather it also removes the same thing from our memory like a dream. Simply in this particular part, he wants to say that mind has a limited capacity, and whatever things we perceive through our senses, those are momentary. They leave momentary impressions on our mind, and once we get distanced from those objects or those things, they get erased from our memory. It's the greatest truth. So यहाँ राइटर ये कहना चाहता है कि हमारी जो कल्पना का पर्दा है, उसे एक कह सकते हैं एक पेंटिंग बोर्ड के रूप में माना है राइटर ने, कि एक टाइम पर हम एक ही तरह की पेंटिंग उस कैनवस पर बना सकते हैं. अगर आपको दूसरी पेंटिंग बनानी है तो आपको उस कैनवस को हटाना पड़ेगा. उसी तरह से जैसे एक समय पर एक ही जगह की ब्यूटी हम एंजॉय कर सकते हैं, अगर हमें अपनी ब्यूटी का, हम अपनी एंजॉयमेंट का दायरा नहीं बढ़ा सकते, हम सिर्फ अपना फोकस जो है, पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, उसको शिफ्ट कर सकते हैं. यानी एक टाइम पर आप एक ही चीज़ को एंजॉय कर सकते हैं बेहतरीन तरीके से. राइटर आगे कहते हैं कि जो खूबसूरत सा लैंडस्केप है, जो खूबसूरत सा प्राकृतिक सौंदर्य है जो आपको आकर्षित किए हुए है, एक समय पर आप उसको बहुत बेहतरीन तरीके से एंजॉय करते हैं, उस वक्त आपको लगता है कि शायद इससे बेहतर, इससे खूबसूरत और कुछ नहीं है। लेकिन हमें आगे बढ़ना रहता है और हम जैसे ही आगे बढ़ते हैं, हमारे दिमाग की वो क्वालिटी, जिस चीज़ ने हमें उस चीज़ से जोड़ा था, उस खूबसूरती से जोड़ा था, वही चीज़ बड़ी कुशलता के साथ उस चीज़ की याद को भी हमारे दिमाग से मिटा देती है। यानी कुल मिला के राइटर का कहने का मतलब ये है कि एक टाइम पर प्रकृति के एक ही पहलू को हम एंजॉय कर सकते हैं, जैसे ही वो नज़ारा हमारी आंखों से ओझल होता है वैसे ही उसकी यादें भी दिमाग से मिटने लगती हैं। The mind is like a mechanical instrument that plays a great variety of tunes, but it must play them in succession. See, the idea that was discussed by or brought forward by the writer in the previous paragraph is being carried forward here also. The writer says our mind is just like a mechanical instrument. It's or mechanical or other musical instrument. We tend to play so many tunes on it. That means we have so many you can say memories stored in it, or we can say we have so many beautiful aspects stored in our mind, but it must play them in succession. But as we play on a guitar or piano, we have to press the keys one by one to produce a certain kind of musical effect. In the same way, mind also cannot have all the memories together, because that will create a chaos in the mind. So in order to enjoy those things, we have to take them one by one. We have to memorize the things one by one. Our mind plays those things one by one for us, one thing at a time. One idea recalls another, but it at the same time excludes all others. And it is the greatest quality of our mind that at one time it is the single idea that rules. Although that idea helps us to remember other things, but at that time that only idea is the prominent thing among in our mind, and it tends to exclude, it tends to remove all the other memories. In trying to renew old recollections, we cannot, as it were, unfold the whole web of our existence. We must pick out the single threads. And it is also true that if we want to renew some old memories, we cannot just go on in a chaotic manner. We cannot just tear apart whatever memories, whatever stored memories we have in our mind. Rather, we have to pick them one by one in an orderly manner. Then only we will be able to memorize, then only we will be able to feel what we could feel at that time when we had encountered that particular object. So mind has this great quality of remembering the things, memorizing the things, but even then it can only just give you an insight of a particular thing only for one thing at a time. You cannot have so many things, you cannot deal with you can say more than one thing in your mind at a time. So this is the speciality of mind. यानी दिमाग भी एक मैकेनिकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट, एक म्यूज़िकल इंस्ट्रूमेंट की तरह से है राइटर के हिसाब से, जिसमें बहुत तरह तरह की ट्यून्स हम लोग प्ले करते हैं, लेकिन शर्त ये है कि एक समय में एक ही धुन को हम बजा सकते हैं। दिमाग में एक टाइम पर एक ही तरह का विचार रूल करता है, और वो विचार जो है हालांकि दूसरे विचारों को आने के लिए रास्ता ज़रूर देता है, लेकिन वो उस समय पर वही विचार हमारे दिमाग के ऊपर हावी रहेगा, बाकी के सारे विचारों को वो हटा देगा। और ये भी उतना ही बड़ा सच है कि यदि हम किसी चीज़ को याद करना चाहते हैं तो हमें एक एक धागा, एक एक ताने बाने का एक एक धागा चुनना पड़ेगा। हम पूरे के पूरे कपड़े को, कल्पनाओं के पूरे जाल को तोड़ नहीं सकते। अगर हम कोशिश करेंगे पूरे के पूरे मेमोरीज़ को डील करने की, तो वो एक तरह से क्योस, एक तरह से बहुत ही ज़्यादा हौच पौच की हालत बन जाएगी। तो अगर आप अपनी यादों को संजोना चाहते हैं, किसी चीज़ को एंजॉय करना चाहते हैं, तो एक समय पर एक ही चीज़ एंजॉय आप कर पाएंगे, बहुत सी चीज़ों को आप साध नहीं पाएंगे। So, in coming to a place where we have formerly lived and with which we have intimate associations, everyone must have found that the feeling grows more vivid the nearer we approach the spot. From the mere anticipation of the actual impression, we remember circumstances, feelings, persons, faces, names that we had not thought of for years, but for the time all the rest of the world is forgotten. He says it's a very simple thing, it's a very common thing that when we just approach a place, when we go near to such a place where we had spent quite a good time, when we go near to that place, suddenly our mind is full of all the memories of those persons, those places, those things which associate us from that particular place. And we try to even memorize, we even remember those instances which incidents which happened to us at that particular place. And suddenly those things which were up till now stored in our memory for years, which remained, you can say, a sort of untouched, they suddenly become alive, they suddenly become important to us. And in that spur of moment, rest of the world is forgotten by us. That means when we were at that place, we got memories of those, that place stored in our mind, and we just kept those memories shut in some sort of, in some corner of our mind. Suddenly when we approach near to that place, again that memory house opens its treasure, and those things, those associations which we had with that place, they become alive to us, and the thing becomes so important to us that all the other things get effaced, that get erased from our memory. यानी यदि हम किसी ऐसी जगह पर जाते हैं जहां हम पहले रह चुके हैं, कुछ वक्त हमने बिताया हुआ है, तो आप पाएंगे कि जैसे जैसे आप उस जगह के पास जाते हैं, आपको वहाँ की यादें, वहाँ बिताए हुए पल याद आने लग जाते हैं, वहाँ की चीज़ें आपको याद आने लग जाती हैं, वहाँ पे मिले हुए लोग आपको याद आने लग जाते हैं, और वो भावनाएं, वो लोग, वो परिस्थितियाँ आपको उस जगह से जोड़ देती हैं। और कई सालों से आपने जिस चीज़ को याद नहीं किया था, अचानक वो चीज़ आपके लिए जीवंत हो जाती है, सजीव हो जाती है, और उस पल में बाकी की चीज़ें हम भुला देते हैं. I should not feel confident in venturing on a journey in a foreign country without a companion. Now, in this particular part, the writer very clearly tells you what you should do while going on a journey. He says, I should not feel confident in venturing on a journey in a foreign country without a companion. He says, if I want to explore a foreign place, I won't be feeling confident if I don't have a company who knows the local language or local people. I should want at intervals to hear the sound of my own language. And not only that, simply when you are in a foreign place, you die to listen to your own language, you die to listen to someone, you eagerly look forward to meet someone who actually knows your place, knows your language. And that's why he says, when I want to go to a particular place which is abroad, which is foreign unto me, at that time I badly need to have a companion. Because earlier in the very beginning of the essay, he had suggested that when you are going on a journey, make sure that you go all alone. Now he is somewhat contradicting the same thing, but he is giving you a valid reason. He says, if I happen to visit a foreign place, in such a place I badly need to have a companion from my own local place, from my own place, because at intervals I would like to listen to the language, to my own native language. There is an involuntary antipathy in the mind of an Englishman to foreign manners and notions that requires the assistance of social sympathy to carry it off. He says, just you can say, highlighting the general feature or characteristic of Englishmen, which according to him, he is pointing out that means he is the only one who is giving this kind of philosophy. He says, there is a kind of antipathy in the mind of Englishmen. The Britishers, they are not very much open to the foreigners. So there is a kind of antipathy in the mind of an Englishman to foreign manners and notions. When Britishers visit a foreign place, they just want to cut off themselves from the local people. They are very much tend to become introvert. And he says at that time one requires the assistance of social sympathy to carry it off. He is just justifying that point, that why he needs a companion in a foreign land. He says at that time I badly need social sympathy. That means in order to sympathize with the people I need to know them, and for that purpose I need to discuss whatever I am having in my mind with a companion, and so I need someone with whom I could share my notes, and thereby my feeling of antipathy may give way to social sympathy. So he says किसी विदेशी जगह पर जाने में मुझे बहुत कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं होता अगर मेरे पास कोई साथी नहीं है, क्योंकि साथी होने का फ़ायदा ये रहेगा कि विदेशी जगह पर मुझे मेरी भाषा को सुनने का मौका मिलेगा साथी की वजह से। देखिए यहाँ पर वो अपने उसी बात को काट रहा है, कह सकते हैं कि ये काफ़ी हद तक कॉन्ट्राडिक्टरी है, विरोधाभासी है। ऐसे की शुरुआत में राइटर ने कहा था कि यात्रा पर अकेले जाना उसे पसंद है, लेकिन यहाँ वो कंपेनियन की डिमांड जो कर रहा है उसके साथ उसका एक कारण भी बता रहा है, बहुत जायज़ कारण बता रहा है कि आप जब विदेश में रहते हैं तो आपकी अंदर से इच्छा होती है, क्योंकि आप वहाँ की भाषा से परिचित नहीं हैं, लोगों से परिचित नहीं हैं, माहौल परिवेश से परिचित नहीं हैं, तो ऐसे में किसी एक ऐसे साथी का जो आपकी देश दुनिया को बिलोंग करता हो बड़ा सहारा देता है, क्योंकि बीच बीच में आप अपनी भाषा सुनना चाहते हैं। दूसरी तरफ यहाँ पर ये भी है कि ब्रिटिशर्स की बात करते, जो कि उसका व्यक्तिगत ओपिनियन है, व्यक्तिगत राय है, हम इसे जनरलाइज नहीं कर सकते। राइटर ये कहता है कि जो इंग्लिशमैन हैं, जो ब्रिटिशर्स हैं, वो फॉरेन मैनर्स, तौर तरीक़ों के प्रति एक उनका ठंडा सा रवैया रहता है, वो अपने आप में सिमटे हुए रहना चाहते हैं। तो उस रूखापन तो नहीं मैं कहूँगी, एक तरह से जो रिज़र्व्ड नेचर है उनका, उस रिज़र्व्ड नेचर को हटाकर जो सामाजिक सहानुभूति प्रकट करने के लिए, प्रदान करने के लिए, आने के लिए व्यक्ति के अंदर सामाजिक सहानुभूति बहुत ज़रूरी होता है, वहाँ के लोगों से जुड़ना, और इस काम में साथी मदद कर सकता है। Those who wish to forget painful thoughts do well to absent themselves of a while from the ties and objects that recall them. But we can be said only to fulfill our destiny in the place that gave us birth. So here again the circle is complete. Perhaps in the beginning he went on a journey, and now he again advocates his own birthplace, coming back to the birthplace. He says, those who wish to forget painful thoughts do well to absent themselves of a while from the ties and objects that recall them. If we simply want to forget, something bad happened in our lives and we want to forget that, in such a situation it is good if you break the ties momentary, for a moment you break the ties that were associating you from your particular place, from your birthplace. But we can be said only to fulfill our destiny in the place that gave us birth. But it is also the strong opinion of the writer that our destiny finally takes us to our own birthplace. Whatever desires we have, whatever achievements we do, they are creditable only in our birthplace. Somehow our birthplace attracts us always to come back. How so far we may go, ultimately one has to come back to one's own birthplace. I should on this account like well enough to spend the whole of my life in traveling abroad if I could anywhere borrow another life to spend afterwards at home. So he says, but my philosophy is that I want to go on traveling and traveling. I want to spend this whole life in traveling and just want to have one more life so that I may spend that life back at home. यानी राइटर ये कहना चाहता है कि जो लोग अपने बर्थ प्लेस से जुड़ी हुई दुख भरी यादों को भुलाना चाहते हैं, उनके लिए बेहतरीन तरीका है कि आप उस जगह को छोड़कर कहीं और चले जाएं। लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं हमारा भाग्य, हमारी किस्मत हमें वापस अपने जन्म स्थान पर लेकर आती है, ये प्रचलित मान्यता है। लेकिन हमारा जो राइटर है उसका कुछ अलग ही मान्यता है। वो कहता है कि इस ज़िंदगी में मैं अपनी पूरी ज़िंदगी घूमने में, विदेशी देश विदेश की यात्रा करने में बिताना चाहता हूँ, और ये भी मेरी इच्छा है कि मेरा अगला जन्म हो जिसको कि मैं घर पे बिता सकूँ। तो कुल मिला के कहने का मतलब ये है कि पूरे ऐसे में राइटर ने यात्रा पर जाने के फ़ायदे, यात्रा पर कैसे जाया जाए, किसके साथ जाया जाए, और क्या क्या उस चीज़ों से हमें यात्रा पर जाने में क्या क्या हमें ध्यान रखना चाहिए, इस तरह का पूरा उसने डिटेल्ड एनालिसिस हमें दिया है। इस वजह से ये उसके बहुत पॉपुलर एसेज में से एक माना जाता है।